So since October 2001, the United States got involved in Afghanistan, and you fast forward to today, and that's over 15 years now, and we're still in Afghanistan. We've spent over $1 trillion, and this is all coming from the Business Insider. Like, it's a direct quote. It says, over nearly 16 years of war, more than 2,200 service members have been killed, and more than 20,000 have been wounded. We have spent almost $1 trillion there. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys might have some insight, but why are we as the United States still involved in operations in Afghanistan? I don't understand at this point why we're still active in the region.
I think a lot of it is because the mission is so vague. When all these wars started, they're all based around civil management more than anything. It's not like we're going to go in, defeat the Taliban, be done. They're all based around we're going to change and sculpt the society to be more friendly to the whole world, and whatever else. And that vagueness brings on a undetermined finish date. And the amount of money that the U.S. has invested in Afghanistan, building up these FOBs and air bases. Well, FOBs are just like pretty much their cities almost, military installations in Afghanistan. And all the aircraft and all the equipment that's been transferred there, it makes no economic sense to uproot all this stuff and come back when you don't have to. Like, the American population has pretty much been numb to the idea of war in Afghanistan. And the majority of conventional forces going out and performing missions is almost non-existent now. So you don't see a lot of bodies, which again, the less bodies, and by bodies I mean casualties that you see, the less the American public cares.
That's true.
The bulk of the missions are done by special forces, and they're expected to go out and do missions everywhere. So no one really cares if there's casualties within special forces. They really care about casualties within the conventional force.
Yes, true.
Because that affects home more. And then you look at the the geography of it. It's sandwiched between, well, we have huge FOBs and a military presence in Iraq. And then there's Afghanistan to the right of it, and then you have Iran right in the middle, right? America has this global sphere of influence that they're trying to consolidate. And right now you see they're trying to build a corridor from Iraq to Afghanistan. It provides them with control over airspace. It gives them capabilities to launch missions. In Afghanistan, you have access to Central Asia. These are all very important strategic areas. And you have to imagine, if you're Iran and you're looking, and to the right and to the left of you are your enemies, and they're able to invade you and launch all these missions in such close proximity, you got to be scared out of your mind, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's not so much about what the initial mission was, because again, the initial mission was to go in and destroy the Taliban government. And that's for all intents and purposes been accomplished. They don't have a Taliban government anymore. Now they have this corrupt, what is it? I guess like
amalgamation,
this amalgamation of
tribal leaders and warlords and
so I don't think people really care. Like, the U.S. is going to continue doing what's profitable to the U.S., which is maintaining that sphere of influence in the area. I don't know, what do you want to add to that, Tarek?
If I could add to that, I just wanted to ask you to, what do you call get ourselves in a little context here, because just look at Afghanistan in the map. It's a very strategic place. There lies the door to the Indian subcontinent. There you have Iran by one side, and then you also have a very solid foothold on on Central Asia, because that's a thing. Central Asia is usually ignored when we talk about international politics, but it's there, and it's many countries, and it's always been, these countries are always under this Russian sphere of influence. Some are kind of slipping to China, and that only makes the region even more interesting, as a matter of fact. So it's very important for the US to have this particular foothold in that so important part of the world, especially in Afghanistan, which is this crossroads between all of them. I just take a look at Afghanistan in the map. But something I'd like to add up here, and that also was related to the initial topic of the podcast, which was radical Islam, is that we must not forget that the Taliban, which is a radical Islamist faction, was really caught up after US, after American support, as a matter of fact. Then again, the West kind of has this thing of supporting radical Islam throughout the 20th century, and the Taliban was no different. Back when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan in the 80s, the United States made no ceremony in supporting the Taliban, especially, this is not conspiracies or anything, especially Osama bin Laden and the radical Islamists of Afghanistan. Of course, you have the conspiracies and everything, but this is pretty much solidified right now. And sorry.
What was the famous quote? What's the famous quote by Reagan? It's like, "Look at the brave freedom fighters," or something like that.
I see these men.
To the White House.
I see these men, and I see no difference between them and our forefathers in the fight for independence back in 1776, something like that.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember hearing about that in class. So then, do you think that maybe the United States' mission of quote unquote stability providing, or maybe nation building, if you want, do you think that is just a guise to maintain control over a region without having to declare necessarily that it's a consistent invasion?
No, I agree in that sense. I would say you're correct, because nowadays you can't just say you are in a region because you want to be in that region out of pure imperialism. Of course, throughout history, we always said, we have to have a reason to be in that region, especially after the 19th century. We're in that region because we're civilizing them. We're, spreading the wings of civilization, and giving the civilizing help or something like that. And today, that argument would be democracy or stabilization. That's what we've seen. That's what's been in the US's discourse. We're stabilizing the region. We're bringing progress or democratic values just to a given region. So, and that also might apply to other countries as well. Even Russia, of course, they're not going to use the argument of democracy, but they always say, protection of their minorities. So when you see China, we're protecting our national sovereignty. So whatever we would call imperialism some years ago, they tend to disguise it as some sort of more noble pursuit or something like that. Because you can't just say, we're there because we're going to put bases there.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at so the shtick, I guess you can say, of U.S. foreign policy is that it's doing everything out of benevolence, whereas, I mean, I guess the Iran-Iraq War is a pretty good example. The U.S. government supplied chemical weapons to Saddam. Saddam obviously used them, and then there was a treaty that was submitted to the UN to stop or to punish Saddam from using these chemical weapons. And then Reagan said, "Oh no, we don't want to push that through because they're doing something good for us at the moment, right?" Well, they didn't say that, but that was that was what was implied. So that was vetoed by the U.S. And then some years later, they used the same reasoning to villainize Saddam, right? And then we see the same thing with the Kuwait invasion. Saddam met with the ambassador of the U.S. and said that he wanted to invade Kuwait. And then April, I believe her name was April Jalipsi or something like that. She said, yeah, the U.S. doesn't really care about that. So he invaded, and then the U.S. went up and said, "Oh, why? He's doing such a disservice to the world, and we got to stop this evil man." It's like, okay, the U.S. has its agenda, and when it's beneficial to the U.S., it's going to say, we don't really care about this. But as soon as it can be implemented to benefit the U.S., they're going to go right around and say, "Oh, this is evil, this is bad, we got to stop this for benevolence, we got to save the world and implement democracy," or whatever. So it's not like this is just one scenario. It's happened multiple times in the U.S. foreign policy. And I mean, Afghanistan is no difference. We have our benevolent reason that we went in there, and it's going to continue that way until there's public outcry to a level, let's say Vietnam, where the public has so much support, so much dissupport of the invasion, of the occupation, that they're going to pull out. But at the moment, we don't really see that.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, looking at the numbers, I don't think we'll have anywhere close to Vietnam level of casualties to really warrant such public outcry for the war and our ongoing assault in the region. So then, does that mean we'll just be there forever?
I mean, I don't know forever. I'm sure that every single election cycle it's brought up, and then each candidate uses it to their own advantage. They platform on, oh, I'm gonna pull out the troops, similar to what Obama did. I mean, that's kind of what he riled up support for pulling out, and then once he was in, kind of changed his tune a little bit. Because even when Obama pulled out, quote unquote, he left tons of troops in Iraq, tons of troops in Afghanistan. And that's what we're seeing kind of now is an extension of the Obama policy, which is we're not doing offensive operations with conventional forces, as I mentioned earlier. We're just safeguarding what we already have over there. Most of the infantry rotations in Afghanistan are just guarding the FOBs. Most infantry rotations in Iraq are just either artillery positions or garrison units that are protecting the FOBs. So I don't think we're going to see enough casualties to warrant public outcry or public attention for that matter. The only other possibility is the amount of spending. We see little bits of it here and there, but I don't know. I don't think the public cares that much about the war machine, as we call it, how much money is going into the military.
Exactly.
It's kind of seen as a huge platform. If you want to defund the military, you're seen as a bad person. So it's kind of hard to go that route. But yeah, we're just going to stay there forever.
Well, just like the Romans did, they never cried about the Roman legions being too funded. They were very happy with having them out there fighting the barbarians, as they would call them.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I would just like to expand on that. Even the Romans kind of knew that because military budget was always such an important expense for the Romans, and indeed even for the United States. In a way, the war machine is a very important source of economic activity, and having a war is important if you want to have a war machine. So let's not dive into the conspiracies of the military industrial complex, because indeed there is a military industrial complex, and the people that there's a very big lobby inside the government to keep a war going. And for these people, I was talking to you all the other day about what was the movie about all the contracts? War Dogs. It's a multi-billion business we have when it comes to contracting and licensing military these military contracts. So of course it's something that's always going to keep around, and the people that get their money from these contracts are going to lobby the shit out to continue war and to continue this need for military contracts. So
to add to that, though, there is a pretty big benefit if you're a country like the U.S., and that's projection of force. We have such a high debt right now that imagine if we were a weaker country, we would be susceptible to influence or invasion by another country, like say China. But at the moment, they don't have the capabilities to invade us at all. We have the global hegemony on force projection. We could invade China right now if we wanted to. We can send out carriers and have stations all around the world, or troop station all around the world.
I just hear the ego, an ego in the distance, ego screeching.
Yeah, and that is such a strong deterrent against anybody else. Like, it's almost at the current state of American economics that it's reasonable to have this type of military, because it's the best defense against anything. Like anything you can think of, this is a strong defense. Who wants to mess with the country that can invade you in a couple hours?
Yeah, for sure. But I think we should probably leave that for another episode, because the military-industrial complex is not only a huge topic, but definitely plays into Middle Eastern affairs as well. And, the U.S.'s economic incentive to stay at war in the region. But, hey, Omar, Tarek, I really appreciate you guys coming on the show. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. And I really want to say...
inviting us.
No, yes, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you guys, reaching back out to me and, taking the time out of your day to, especially you staying up so late, man. That's I appreciate it.
It's crazy because the sun never sets here, by the way. It's like in the American bases, The sun never sets here. It's, oh shit, fucking birds are already singing.
Yeah, right?
But also, I want to say that this is our first time going on somebody else's podcast.
Yeah.
please forgive us and our unpolished, specifically me, unpolished speech. I think we flow a little bit better when we're just speaking between us because we're kind of used to it. But again, this is a new experience, and with any new experience, you're kind of learning the basis, and it's rough around the edges, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Hey, I thought it was pretty solid, to be honest. You guys are very well informed, and I definitely think anybody who listened to this walked away with some kind of knowledge.
Yeah.
And lastly, as custom in our podcast, we have to call out our sponsors. Thank you so much, Masad, for the funding. We really appreciate it. Thank you for connecting us together to perform this podcast. We got the check in the mail yesterday. I don't know when you got it, Tarek, but again, thank you so much.
No, mine is Western Union.
What's going on?
Yeah, they send the check goes through Western Union, so it's all fine.
Yeah, we get funding by Mossad to advocate for the greater state of Israel.
From river to sea, Israel shall be free.
Yeah.
Well, hey, so
next stop is Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, right. Oh, that'd be great. Well, I just wanted to say real quick that I really appreciate you guys doing this stuff. I think it's incredibly important that everybody gets out there and speaks their minds, and no matter the pushback you get, everyone needs to project their ideas so that we can have a larger marketplace of ideas, and then we can have a better society as a result of that. So I appreciate you guys taking the time and effort to really project your ideas and to publish that kind of stuff, and to not only just be engaged in politics but also world affairs and things like that. It's awesome. So where can the listeners find you?
Thank you so
guys?
much.
Where can everybody find you?
Oh, sorry, I totally didn't hear you. Yeah, we're at, I guess YouTube, the Spicy Political Podcast is the only way at the moment. I don't know, Tarek. Do you have any links available?
Yeah, we can just search the Spicy Podcast on YouTube. We'll be the second result because apparently there's some other spicy thing, like a cooking podcast, and they talk about spicy foods.
The Hot Wings
We're
channel.
getting beat by Hot Wings. God damn it.
And the guy got 200,000 views or something like that.
No, he has 15 million views, Tarek.
Well, no worries.
No, 200,000 subscribers or something. Anyway, but the idea is that it's a yellow background with a big pepper, a big jalapeno or something.
Yeah, it's the logo you guys will see during the conversation, and then also I'll be sure to link your channel in the description below for all the listeners to find.
Thank you very much. We
Yeah,
gotta
of course,
share
you
your
guys are
channel as
awesome.
well.
Well,
Thank you, Mike.
Hey, thank you for your time, and thank you all for listening. I'm your host, David Ashby, and this was The Flexible Mind.
Take care, guys.
Thank you very much.